Have you ever felt like you're being prepared for something far greater than you can fathom, as if your soul were being trained silently, without fanfare, while the world outside screams for answers? Maybe you've never spoken about this to anyone, maybe you can't even explain it, but something inside you knows there's a mission, a calling, something about to happen, and you need to be ready. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may surprise you in a profound way. While many remain distracted, concerned only with what they see and touch, there is a silent movement taking place in the depths of the invisible, a spiritual preparation that doesn't appear in the headlines or in political speeches, but that beats strongly in the hearts of those who can still hear what comes from above. And in this time of confusion, intense trial, and seemingly endless pain, Mary, the mother of all the faithful, continues to whisper direct guidance to those who still have spiritual ears to hear. It's no coincidence that in Medjugorje for decades, these messages have been transmitted with insistence, love, and urgency. Even with 7 messages still unrevealed to the world, their echoes are already touching sensitive souls. And perhaps you, even without realizing it, are already being guided by one of these hidden words. Have you ever experienced this? The feeling that something is being revealed within you, even without any rational explanation. That's the sign. The role of the faithful has never been more necessary than now. And we're not talking about perfect believers, unattainable saints, or religious leaders. We're talking about ordinary people who, even amidst failures, fears, and doubts, continue to look to the heavens in search of meaning. People like you, who sense there's something more, who sense that the great spiritual trial foretold in the prophecies is not a metaphor, it's a reality that has already begun. And in light of this, every faithful heart needs to understand its place. Mary, in her powerful delicacy, doesn't shout, she calls, she guides, she forms from within. And that's why many don't notice, because they're waiting for thunder, when in fact, divine guidance comes as a whisper. And these whispers are invitations to preparation, to silence, to listening, to prayer, to readiness. Because even though the content of the 7 messages of Medjugorje is still hidden, what has already been revealed is enough to awaken those who truly want to see. Do you feel it? As if you're being shaped from within, as if you're going through small trials that, taken together, are part of something greater. Don't ignore these signs, they're not random. They're part of what Mary called the time of great testing. And the faithful, even if they don't know exactly what's coming, are being spiritually, silently positioned to endure and sustain their faith when the storm finally breaks. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. And as we delve deeper into this mystery, I want to open up a space here for something very important. If, in some way, this topic resonates with you, if something inside your heart stirred, if you felt this silent call touching your soul, leave in the comments what has touched you most so far. Share your experience, your opinion, or even that question you've never had the courage to voice. Because when you write, you don't just express yourself, you also help others realize they're not alone on this journey. And if this content is truly making you reflect, if it awakens something deep inside you, like this video now, it may seem like just a click, but this gesture is like a small candle lit. It helps this message reach those who need to hear it most today. This is how YouTube understands this topic's relevance and begins showing this content to other souls. Also, seeking answers. And if you want to continue following these revelations, these deep dives into the mysteries of faith, Mary's messages, and the spiritual transformations that are happening now, subscribe to the channel, not only to receive future videos, but to be part of this silent but awakened community that is preparing, step by step, to resist and illuminate the world amid the darkness that is already beginning to spread. Your presence here makes all the difference, because it's not about numbers, it's about connection. It's about awakening together. And what we'll explore next can further expand this spiritual vision that's now opening before us. And perhaps what frightens us most is not the storm outside, but the silence within. A silence that sometimes seems empty, but is actually full of signs. Signs that many ignore because they're rushing too much. They're too distracted. They're numbed by loud voices, by empty promises, by a world that offers everything except peace. But answer me honestly, don't you feel something has changed? That time is no longer the same. That evil has stopped hiding and now walks the streets, with its face exposed, laughing at innocence, mocking faith, trampling on the most essential values of the human soul. What once seemed merely a behavioral crisis now reveals itself as a spiritual collapse. Wars multiply, family divisions deepen, hearts become cold, insensitive, incapable of being moved by the pain of others. And in the midst of this scenario, a question arises that can no longer be postponed. Are we already living in the time of the great trial? The answer, perhaps, doesn't come from outside. It may be within you, because this trial isn't just external, not just what we see on screens or hear on the news. It happens within the mind, in the invisible realm of the decisions we make every day, between light and shadow, between faith and escape, between awakening and indifference. And that's precisely where the role of the faithful comes in. because these aren't spectators watching the collapse of a system, but rather awakened souls, poised, prepared if silently, to sustain something the world has forgotten. The presence of God. The time of trial began subtly, not with a bang, but with small cracks, first in morals, then in families, then in ways of thinking, until they reached the deepest spiritual structures. It was like an invisible virus that spread through consciousness, changing the way people see good and evil, right and wrong, truth and illusion. And the most disturbing thing is that many haven't even noticed this change. They continue living as if everything were normal, when, in fact, nothing is. But those with spiritual eyes already sense the discomfort. They already realize something is wrong, that what we are experiencing is not just a social crisis, but a spiritual test. A silent sieve that is separating those who are awake from those who still live in dormancy. And in this scenario, the faithful have not been called to the stage, but to the wings, to a mission that does not shine in the eyes of the world, but that has an eternal impact. The believer who prays when no one is watching, who fasts in silence, who intercedes for those they don't even know, who chooses to forgive even when it hurts. This is the hidden warrior in the great battle. It is this anonymous soul who sustains the bridges that have not yet fallen. And the curious thing is that many of these believers don't even realize the greatness of what they are doing. They think they are merely surviving life, when, in fact, they are being molded by God as invisible pillars of a spiritual temple that still stands amidst ruin. Have you noticed how life has been demanding more of you lately? More patience, more steadfastness, more courage. It's as if everything is becoming more intense, more challenging. This isn't by chance. It's a sign that you're being called to stand firm while many are falling. Because trials aren't punishment, they're preparation. They're like a purifying fire, a wind that separates the wheat from the chaff, a time of decision that reveals who's ready to stand, and who's still asleep, and if you're here now, listening to all this, it's because somehow you've already begun to awaken. Even with doubts, even with fears, even feeling weak at times, because those chosen for this time aren't the strongest there. The most faithful, those who continue even when they don't understand, those who don't give up even when it seems like everything is falling apart. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there is something essential that needs to be revealed about Mary's silence regarding the 7 messages that still remain hidden, and how this silence is not empty, but full of meaning, urgency, and inner revelation. Comment below. This makes sense to me if you felt that this message spoke to you so far. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there is a specific silence that carries an almost unbearable weight for those with spiritual sensitivity. A silence that doesn't mean absence, but rather containment. A silence that encompasses 7 messages, 7 secrets that have remained hidden since the early days of the apparitions in Medjugorje. Little is said about them openly, perhaps because there is a collective fear of facing what these messages truly represent, but the heart that seeks the truth feels that these secrets are closer to being revealed than ever. Since 1981, the visionaries of Medjugorje have been speaking about these 7 unrevealed messages. And the most enigmatic thing is that, even amidst the mystery, there is something that overflows from these secrets and reaches the most attentive souls. It is as if, even without knowing the exact content, many people are already being touched by the spiritual consequences of these hidden revelations. It is not just a matter of waiting for something external to happen, but of realizing that something internal has already begun, a kind of silent spiritual activation that reaches those who have been prepared to hear what has been unsaid. These messages are not obscure codes nor cinematic predictions of the end of the world. They are, above all, instruments of inner transformation. They are like keys that, at the right moment, will open doors within humanity's consciousness. But the most impressive thing is that there are people who are already experiencing the effects of these keys, even before they are officially delivered. Because the Holy Spirit doesn't wait for a date to act. He anticipates, he whispers, he shapes. Many believers report intense dreams, profound shifts in mindset, and feelings of spiritual urgency they can't explain. Others realize they are being led to unexpected decisions, silent renunciations, and abandonment of habits and environments that previously seemed normal. It's as if a new light has been lit within these people, and even without understanding everything, they know something has changed. That they are being prepared for something greater, that the call has already been made, and the answer has begun to be experienced in practice. Day after day, gesture after gesture, choice after choice. These experiences are no coincidence. They are a reflection of something already in motion on the spiritual plane, because even though the secrets of Medjugorje are still hidden, their impact has already begun. And Mary, in her divine wisdom, has guided this preparation in a personal and intimate way, as only a mother can do. She doesn't reveal everything at once, because she knows that many souls still cannot bear the complete truth. She delivers it piecemeal, step by step, through experiences. And that is precisely why many don't realize they are already walking Within the prophetic plan, there's an important detail in this process. The inner revelations many are receiving don't contradict the message of Medjugorje. On the contrary, they confirm it. They confirm the urgency of conversion, the centrality of prayer, the need for fasting, the value of sacrifice, and the power of intercession. They confirm that the time is now, and that it's no longer possible to live lukewarmly, sleepily, disconnected. Each person must decide whether to continue waiting for the great external revelations or to delve into the spiritual depths, where true changes are already taking place. And the most curious thing, or perhaps the most painful, is that those receiving these inner lights are often precisely those who consider themselves least worthy. They are those who pray in silence, who carry old guilt, who struggle with their failings, but who continue seeking. They are those who, even wounded, have not given up listening to Mary's voice in the depths of their hearts. And it is with these souls that the secrets of Medjugorje begin to reveal themselves, not as words written on paper, but as living truths that shape character, faith, and purpose. Have you ever felt this? A sudden urge to change, a deep restlessness. That doesn't come from outside, but springs from within. A sudden clarity amidst the chaos, as if someone were showing you what needs to be done, even if it still hurts. This isn't imagination. This could be grace beginning to work within you. It could be an echo, a reflection, a fragment of one of these messages not yet revealed, but already activated in your journey. Write down, I'm on this journey too, if you felt this movement within yourself, because what follows may help you understand why Mary chose the faithful land, not the powerful, to sustain the world in this time of silence and revelation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's a question that, sooner or later, we all silently ask: why didn't Mary appear in palaces? Why didn't she reveal these messages to the world's great leaders, scholars, and influential figures? Why, over so many centuries, have her apparitions always focused on the small, the invisible, the unlikely? And if we stop to look with our hearts, the answer begins to emerge with a clarity that demolishes all human logic. Mary chooses the humble because their hearts don't need proof to believe, because the simple have space within themselves. And the empty space of pride, arrogance, or vanity is precisely where God chooses to manifest himself. It is in the silence of the interior, where there is no stage or dispute, that the most profound revelations become possible. Have you ever noticed this? How sometimes the most discreet, most suffering, most constant people are also those who radiate a peace that the world cannot explain. The faithful Mary chooses are not those who shout the loudest, nor those who know the most about theology or have the most degrees. They are those who remain. They are those who, even without understanding everything, remain there with rosary in hand, kneeling on the ground, their gaze turned to the sky. They are the persevering, those who have fallen 1,000 times, but have risen 1,001. Those who have passed through the fire and still maintain a gentle gaze. Those who have not been corrupted, even though they have every reason to give up. And that's why Mary chooses them, because the great trial demands deep roots. It's not enough to appear strong on the outside. You need to have consistency of soul, and the faithful, over time, are polished. They are transformed in silence. They are purified by pain, by loss, by difficult choices. And this invisible journey, which the world despises, is precisely the spiritual curriculum that Mary recognizes. Can you grasp the impact of this? How much weight does each small gesture of fidelity, even without applause, have in the divine plan? While many seek external significance, Mary looks within. And it is there that she finds willing souls. The little ones who say yes even without knowing where it will lead, the hearts that, even wounded, do not close, the hands that, even tired, continue to serve. Mary chooses the faithful because they don't seek greatness, they seek meaning. They want to be aligned with God's will, even when that will places them in uncomfortable places. They don't flee the desert, they cross it, and it is precisely in this crossing that the spirit is strengthened. It is in this silent, almost anonymous process that Mary forms her instruments. And the most beautiful thing is that many don't even see themselves that way. They don't feel worthy, they don't feel capable, but they continue. And that is enough. Have you ever felt too small to make a difference? Have you ever looked at the world and thought, who am I in the midst of all this? Well, yes, maybe that's exactly why Mary looked at you, because the powerful are already full of themselves, but the humble still know how to listen. They still have room to be led. They can still kneel, and this gesture, which the world ignores, is what moves heaven. Write down, this resonates with me if this message touched something deep within your heart, because what we're about to explore next reveals a crucial detail of this preparation journey that few see, but which can change everything when truly understood. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there is a weapon that many underestimate but which is being placed in the hands of the most discreet believers: silence. Not the silence of those who omit, of those who hide, out of fear or convenience, but the mature silence, full of meaning, born of true listening and total trust, a silence that does not despair amid the noise of the world, but but that takes root in the presence of God and gradually becomes an unshakable inner fortress. In today's world, where everything is urgent, noisy, opinionated, distracted, silence. It is disturbing. Those who don't join in the discussion, but instead go to their room to pray, are doing more for the world than many leaders who speak loudly. Silence, guided by prayer, transforms into a rare kind of spiritual resistance. A resistance that confronts not through force, but through surrender. That doesn't argue with human logic, but remains firm in faith. This silence isn't an absence of action, it's deep and invisible action. Like the roots of a tree that sustains its trunk even in the worst storms. Have you ever felt this? That desire not to react like everyone else, not to shout, not to justify yourself, but simply to withdraw and listen. This is more than emotional maturity. This is a spiritual impulse. It's the soul being trained to live on a different frequency, and this training doesn't appear on social media, nor is it valued by those who measure the world by likes. But it is real, and it is in this silent space that evil begins to lose its strength, because evil feeds on chaos. And when it finds no response, no agitation, no peace in the heart, it falls apart. Mary has led many faithful along this wordless path, and sometimes it's difficult to explain, even to those close by. Because the transformation happens within. A person begins to change the way they look, listen, and decide. They begin to distance themselves from pointless debates, heavy environments, and unnecessary noise. They withdraw, not out of weakness, but out of inner obedience, out of discernment. And the more silence there is between them and the world, the more clarity begins to exist between them and God. This is the obedience that disarms evil, the silent obedience that goes unannounced, that demands no recognition, yet is profoundly effective, because it cuts the chain of automatic reaction. It interrupts cycles, it purifies the environment, and, more than that, it opens space for divine will to manifest itself without interference. Do you understand the power of this? It's not about doing less. It's not about doing less to do more. It's about letting go of control and entering the flow of grace. Behind the scenes of this great spiritual trial, there is a multitude of believers being guided by precisely this attitude. They aren't in the headlines. They are in the pews of silent churches, in hidden chapels, in rooms where a candle is lit while everyone else sleeps. They are kneeling, praying for those who don't even know they need prayer. They are fasting without telling anyone. They are living as invisible pillars supporting what has not yet fallen. And the truth is that the spiritual enemy fears these types of people, because he doesn't know how to bring them down. They don't take offense easily. They don't react impulsively. They don't live by appearances. They don't need to win debates because they've already won within themselves. They've learned that silence can carry more light than 1,000 words. And it is this light that disarms the darkness. If you've been experiencing this call to silence, this need to step away from the noise and retreat to listen. Know that you're not retreating. You're advancing, in the only way that makes sense right now. In depth. Mary is leading souls like this to a different battlefield, a field where obedience becomes a shield, and silence an invisible sword. Because true spiritual combat isn't one on the surface. It's one in the place where only the Spirit can reach. Write down, I am in this silence with purpose, if that word resonated within you, because the next stage of this journey reveals to us how, even without realizing it, many are already being prepared for something that transcends everything. They know, and this can completely change the way they see what they are experiencing today. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because, amidst so much silence and apparent waiting, there's something happening behind the scenes in your life that you may not have noticed yet. Something that isn't visible on social media, that isn't measured by visible achievements or human applause. A silent, almost imperceptible, yet extremely precise preparation, as if every detail of your day were being used by Mary to shape you for something that is yet to come. And here's a truth many ignore. Not every mission begins with an explicit calling. Sometimes it begins with a restlessness you can't name, with a subtle uneasiness in the face of what was once comfortable, with a new desire for things deeper, truer, more aligned with what you feel is your essence. This is the signal. This is the starting point. Mary doesn't awaken her chosen ones with noise, but with thirst. That's why, suddenly, certain conversations no longer make sense to you. Some places lose their luster. Certain attitudes seem empty, because your soul is shifting gears. It's being pulled into another kind of reality, more interior, more spiritual, more focused on the essential. This is preparation, and it doesn't happen on the big platforms, but at the small table in your home, the moment you close your eyes and decide to pray, even without knowing what to say. Invisible preparation happens in the decision to forgive when you had every right to walk away. It happens when you choose silence over an aggressive response, when you get up the next day, even exhausted, and keep going. Mary is forming warriors like this. People who may never preach at an altar, but who support an entire family with their faithfulness. Who may never write a book, but write the gospel with their daily actions. who may never lead crowds, but are leading themselves silently, every day, in an intimate battle between light and darkness. This doesn't have a stage, but it has an eternal impact. Have you ever stopped to consider that perhaps your life is being carefully organized by God to fulfill a purpose far greater than you can imagine? That even your pain, your waiting, your losses, and your disappointments may be being used as tools of formation. Invisible preparation is just that, a divine scene made in the dark, which only reveals its form when the light finally shines upon it. And this light is not for now, it will come in due time. For now, the call is to walk with confidence, even without seeing the next step. It's trusting that what seems small today, like the decision to pray more often, to distance yourself from negative influences, to seek more silence, can be building, brick by brick, the foundation of the mission you will yet live. It's no exaggeration to say that many are already being trained for decisive moments that have yet to arrive. And when those moments come, those who have been faithful in the little things will know what to do, because they will have been shaped, not by the anxiety of the world, but by the patience of Mary. Don't expect this mission to come with a manual. It unfolds in stages. First comes the desire to change. Then comes the courage to act differently. And then, little by little, you begin to realize that you're becoming someone you never imagined, because you've become better than others. But because you've learned to listen to that voice that speaks softly but moves mountains. Write down, I am being prepared in silence, if you feel like everything you've been experiencing lately is serving a greater purpose. Because the next part of this journey reveals precisely how to learn to listen to this inner voice and clearly identify your role in this journey that has already begun. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's something almost no one wants to hear, but that needs to be said with a clear heart. Personal trials are also part of the mission. Yes, that suffering you thought was just a mistake of fate, that loss that tore you apart, that silent pain no one noticed, all of this may have been, and may still be, an essential part of your spiritual formation. It's strange to think this way, I know, because we've learned to see mission as something grand, inspiring, marked by moments of light and fulfillment. But in reality, the truest missions are forged in the shadows, behind the scenes of pain, in the secret of those who continue to say yes even when the ground disappears. And Mary knows this. That's why she doesn't just console the faithful in their trials, she molds them within them. Often, what we interpret as abandonment is actually the silence of heaven at the very moment our soul is being shaped. It's as if God withdraws from the surface to work deeper, and it is in this silence that the purest decisions are born. When you follow even without feeling, when you pray even without consolation, when you forgive even while still bleeding inside, this is the raw material of saints. Not the good feeling, but fidelity in its absence. Have you ever wondered why certain situations in your life seem to repeat patterns of pain, as if the same kind of suffering returns with different faces? Perhaps it's because that pain didn't come to destroy you, but to reveal something. Perhaps you're being trained in compassion, or being honed in patience, or being called to discover a strength that only appears when you're pushed to your limit. Nothing is in vain. Nothing is lost in time. Spiritual life is a continuous thread, and each tear of yours, when offered in faith, becomes an invisible stone in the construction of the kingdom. How many times has an illness made someone turn their gaze inward? How many times has rejection been the gateway to profound transformation? How many times has grief awakened a soul that had been dormant? God allows certain fractures because only when the vessel shatters can he begin anew, this time, with his hands even closer to the essence. And Mary accompanies this process like no one else, because she knows pain. She knows loss. She knows the loneliness of those who obey a calling few understand. And here's a truth that transforms everything. Pain isn't a mistake in the mission's script. Sometimes, it's the turning point itself. It's in that moment when you think you've been left out that you're actually being pulled closer. Because Mary doesn't train warriors in luxury gyms. She trains them in the desert, in scarcity, in silence, in waiting. It's there that it's decided who is truly willing to experience something greater than themselves. If you've been going through trials, don't think you're behind. Perhaps you're exactly at the point where heaven begins to write more deeply into your story. Because suffering, when combined with prayer, isn't a burden, it's an impulse. And the faithful being prepared by Mary to sustain the world in this great trial aren't those who always win, but those who always endure. Write down, my pain also has a purpose. If this passage helped you see your suffering through a new lens, because what we'll understand next is how this silent army, made up of people like you, has been used as guardians of messages that have not yet been revealed, but are already beginning to be fulfilled. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there is a responsibility that not everyone sees, but which is being silently entrusted to thousands of faithful spread throughout the world. A mission that comes with neither title nor visibility, but which carries immense spiritual weight, to be guardians of the warning. And I'm not speaking here of a symbolic or theoretical position. I'm speaking of a real choice made by Mary to entrust to the simple, the persevering, those who have already been shaped by the fire of trials. The role of warning the world even without knowing all the details of what is to come. Yes, you heard right, even without direct access to the full content of the 7 still unrevealed messages of Medjugorje. The faithful are already being used as living instruments of this proclamation, because the signs are there, scattered throughout time, disguised in events, camouflaged amid routine, and only those trained in silence, listening, and vigilance can perceive them. Mary is not waiting for the messages to be published to begin acting. She is already acting, and awakened hearts are the channels of this action. That's why you might be feeling a different weight lately, an inexplicable urgency, a constant feeling that there's something that needs to be done, something that needs to be said, something that can no longer be ignored. This is the calling. This is the mission. And sometimes, this mission doesn't require words, it requires presence. A firm presence, a sensitive presence. A presence connected to the heavens. Because there are times when the greatest wake-up call isn't a cry, but a look, a gesture, a way of living that contrasts with the darkness around and points to a light that still exists. Even when the world tries to extinguish it. This is what being a guardian of the warning is. Being spiritually positioned, being an invisible sentinel who doesn't sleep while many are distracted, who watches not out of fear but out of love, who offers their life as a channel for others to awaken. And this responsibility doesn't weigh heavy when it's sustained by faith. On the contrary, it gives meaning to everything that previously seemed inexplicable. Even past pains find a new place within this mission. Everything fits together. Everything is revealed. Because the guardians of the warning are not heroes. They are servants. They are ordinary souls with extraordinary sensitivity to the movements of the Spirit, and you may be among them, even without having understood it yet, even without feeling prepared enough. Because the chosen ones aren't always the most capable, they're the most available. Those who say yes, even when afraid, those who don't need guarantees to obey, those who love the truth more than their own comfort zone, and it's this love that makes them able to receive, even without knowing it, important parts of a message that has yet to be revealed to the world, but which needs to be lived on, proclaimed. Now there is a hidden truth coming to light. There will be no great public announcement until hearts are ready. Mary is silently preparing these hearts, and when the moment comes, the faithful who have been vigilant will not be caught off guard. On the contrary, they will be like beacons in the darkness, guiding others with the light of faith, peace, and surrender. And this is not poetry. This is real. It is happening now. While many sleep, the watchmen are awake. And if you have come this far, if you are listening to this message, perhaps you too are being awakened to this invisible but decisive function. Write down, I have been called to watch. If that word sparked something within you, because in the next step of this journey, we'll delve even deeper into the invisible field where this battle is taking place, and understand how believers can, in fact, influence the spiritual direction of the times in which we live. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's something happening behind everything we see, something that escapes the common eye, but that has a direct impact on the fate of the world. There's an invisible battle taking place right now, not with swords or visible armies, but with spiritual forces clashing, forces that influence the decisions of nations, families, and hearts. And in the midst of this battlefield, where so many are unaware or distracted, there is a weapon that few value but that changes everything. When used with faith, intercession. The prayer of the faithful is not an empty religious practice. It is a concrete action on the spiritual plane. Every time a believer kneels, every time they offer a sincere prayer, a sacrificial act of pain, a purposeful fast, something happens in the invisible, a breach closes, and evil is stopped. A soul is rescued, and it is not a metaphor, it is reality. Mary made this clear more than once, especially in Medjugorje, when she stated that many tragedies were avoided because of the prayers of a few. She even said that if people knew the power of prayer, they would pray without ceasing. But why do so many continue to treat prayer as something symbolic, decorative, or even secondary? Perhaps because we've become too accustomed to quick results. Perhaps because the world has taught us to value only what can be seen, touched, and tasted. But the spiritual world doesn't follow this logic. It responds to silent faithfulness. And when a believer intercedes, they are placing themselves between heaven and earth, between good and evil, between what could happen and what, because of their prayer, DOESN. Single quotes T. Intercession is, in essence, an act of extreme love. It's praying not only for yourself, but for others, and often for others you don't even know. It's saying, Lord, go before them before you go before me. It's carrying someone's suffering on your own shoulders, in spirit, and presenting them to God with the same urgency with which you would present your sick child or your mother in distress. And Mary has been asking this insistently, because she knows what's at stake. She sees what we don't see. And so she alerts us, calls us, implores us, pray my children. Pray with your heart. Have you ever felt the urge to pray for someone for no apparent reason? Have you ever woken up with someone's name on your mind or felt a deep restlessness without understanding why? This may have been a direct touch from Mary, an urgent request from above. Because, in spiritual warfare, the sensitivity of a single heart can mean salvation for many. Prayer is not wasted, it accumulates. And when the time is right, it triggers changes that no human power could bring about. The most impressive thing is that you may never know what your prayer prevented. You may never see the fruit. But in heaven, everything is recorded. And every prayer made in a spirit of surrender, even if it's a phrase spoken through tears, carries a power capable of altering the course of history. Mary entrusts this to the faithful. And that is why, even in the face of chaos, darkness, and the feeling that everything is falling apart, she continues to say, "Pray, I need your prayers." This is the field where the guardians of the warning become active warriors. Intercession is not passivity, it is combat, it is resistance. It is spiritual confrontation with the weapons heaven has given us: faith, silence, fasting, and love. And perhaps you are already fighting without realizing it. Every time you choose to forgive, every time you say yes to prayer, even when tired, every time you offer your pain without revolt, you are interceding. You are interfering. You are saving, even without seeing it. Write down, "My prayer is part of the battle," if you feel this invisible struggle also affecting you. Because the next step of this revelation will lead us to the final destination of all this, the promised triumph, and how the fidelity of the silent faithful connects directly with the victory of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because, amidst all that we are going through, the silence, the trials, the invisible call, the spiritual battle, there is one certainty that remains like a burning flame that no one can extinguish. The Immaculate Heart of Mary will triumph. It's not just a pretty phrase or a vague promise. It's a prophetic reality that is gradually fulfilled within each soul that chooses to remain steadfast, even when the surrounding scenario screams otherwise. Yes, we are at war. Yes, there is pain we don't understand, situations that seem out of control, a world that is increasingly cold, violent, and aimless. But behind all this, there is a promise that never fails. Mary has already anticipated this in her apparitions. No matter how much evil advances, no matter how much it seems to be winning, victory is already decreed. And it will not come through a sudden explosion that will sweep away suffering overnight, but through a continuous, slow, profound a dawn that begins in the dark. The triumph of the Immaculate Heart is a promise of justice, of restoration, of a return to truth. And every believer who stands today, even without seeing the fruits, is already participating in this triumph. Because Mary's victory begins within. It begins in the heart that does not give up on loving, even when hurt. In the heart that does not give up on prayer, even when unanswered. In the heart that chooses good, even when evil seems easier. It is in these small acts, in these daily, silent, and constant choices, that the kingdom is established. Many people imagine this triumph will be something spectacular, visible, and impactful. And yes, at some point, it will also manifest itself externally. But before that, it's happening now, behind the scenes of your soul. Every time you say no to sin, every time you trust, even when you're afraid, every time you forgive, even when you can't. This is part of the triumph. Because evil wants to dominate the structures of the world, but it also wants to dominate your heart. And when you refuse to surrender your inner self to darkness, you are already winning with Mary. She doesn't walk alone. And neither are you alone on this mission. There are thousands of hearts scattered across the earth experiencing the same surrender, feeling the same struggle, suffering in silence, interceding behind the scenes. People who may never meet, but who are connected by this promise. An army that isn't clothed in glory, but in fidelity. And it is this silent union, formed by faithful souls, that is sustaining the time of waiting. Mary counted on the apostles at the beginning of the church, and today, she counts on the faithful to sustain the journey until the light is full again. You may not feel strong, but if you keep standing, keep saying yes, even without understanding everything, then you are already within this triumph. The world may try to convince you that you are just another person, but heaven sees you as part of an eternal plan. Nothing you do with love and faith is lost. Not the most hidden tear, not the simplest prayer, not the smallest sacrifice. All of this rises like perfume before God, and Mary gathers every gesture, every sacrifice, as offerings that nourish this time of struggle, but also of hope. The triumph of the Immaculate Heart is the final destination, but it has already begun now, within you. And the more you allow this heart to reign in your life, the more this triumph spreads in your home, your relationships, your decisions. Because when Mary reigns in a heart, heaven begins to occupy the space where fear once resided. Write down, the triumph has already begun in me. If this truth resonates with you, because in the next step of this journey, we'll delve deeper into how you can remain vigilant in the face of the final essential question. what Mary is asking of you now, at this very moment in history. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because, after everything that has been said, after each revelation, each reflection, each hidden truth that has come to light on this journey from soul to soul, there remains a question that can no longer be avoided. If Mary trusts you, what are you doing with this calling? This is where the journey ceases to be merely listening and begins to become a response. Because it's no longer enough to simply feel. It's time to take a stand. To decide, to leave the realm of thought and enter the realm of practice. Mary's call is not for some distant future, it is for now. And it's not just for religious people, for people living in convents, or for those who lead perfect, flawless lives. It is for you, exactly as you are today, with your limits, your doubts, your wounds, your fears. She knows every detail, and yet, she chose you. But how can we respond to this call in a real and concrete way? It begins with personal conversion. Not an emotional or fleeting conversion, but one that is built in practice. The decision to change mindsets, to rethink attitudes, to leave superficiality behind, and delve deep into our own soul. Mary doesn't seek immediate perfection. She seeks true willingness, a heart that says, I want it, and that has the courage to take the first step, even if it's small. This first step can be daily prayer. It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be beautiful, it needs to be sincere. Mary doesn't expect flowery words, she wants to hear your truth, even in silence. And prayer opens doors. It transforms your outlook. It strengthens your spirit. It makes you realize what previously went unnoticed. It is in prayer that you begin to hear the whispers of heaven and gain the strength to obey, even when it's difficult. Then comes fasting. And here, once again, it's not a penance to please God. Fasting is a gesture of freedom. It's telling the body, you no longer control me. It's clearing the space of the soul so it can breathe clearly again. Mary asked for fasting, not as punishment, but as purification, because in times of spiritual confusion, only a clean heart can discern. Then comes the constant search for truth. In a world where everything is diluted, distorted, and adapted to each individual's taste, seeking the truth is an act of courage. And more than seeking information, it is seeking the living truth, the one that illuminates the conscience, that reveals what needs to be left behind, and that points firmly, yet tenderly, to the path of God's will. Mary does not want blind followers. She wants conscious, awakened children, willing to carry the light amidst the darkness. And if you've made it this far, if something inside you feels restless, stirred, perhaps it's because this call has been echoing within you for much longer. Then you realize, maybe you just hadn't understood what it was. Maybe you felt it, but couldn't name it, because now it's named. Now it's before you. And the decision to respond is in your hands. You don't have to do everything at once, but you need to start. You need to break out of paralysis. You need to leave the comfortable waiting and accept that your life has eternal weight in God's plan. Because Mary trusts you. And this trust, coming from heaven, demands a response here. On earth, not out of obligation, but out of love. Right there, ready. If this message has found a true place in your heart, because those who recognize their calling don't wait for tomorrow to begin living as those who have already been chosen. You've made it this far. It's because this message spoke to a part of you that may have been silent for a while. And that says a lot. Together, in this video, we've built a path of depth, dedication, and meaning. And if this helped you in any way, if it brought clarity or ignited something within you, leave a like here so I know this kind of content is touching hearts like yours. And if this journey resonated with you, if you feel you want to continue receiving content that brings you closer to your spiritual mission, your essence, and the truth that heaven has whispered, subscribe to the channel. It's this connection that allows me to continue bringing you these reflections with the soul and seriousness you deserve. And tell me in the comments if you stuck with me until the end. Write something like this: I'm with you until the end. Because this space here is yours too. It's ours. And when you write, you not only confirm that you're on the right path, but you inspire others to keep going too. There's a video, right here, that complements everything we've discussed so far. Click and follow along with me there. Your journey is just beginning.